In the beginning, writing a song can feel overwhelming. When you have thousands of options, making decisions becomes harder and harder. So in this episode, we look at some things we can accept as a given for our writing. So strap on your thinking caps and take off your shoes. You shouldn't wear those in the house anyways. And let's talk about structuring a pop song. Welcome back to the Hit Song Architect, where we gather a deeper understanding of how pop songs work and how to write them. Let's start this episode off with a little quiz. What's the typical structure of a pop song? Is it A, intro, verse, pre-chorus, verse, pre-chorus, bridge, chorus? Yes, it is. This is not a quiz show. For your first 100 songs, just use this structure. Don't make things too complicated for yourself. Everything else is already complicated enough. This here works. Don't fix what ain't broken. Nobody cares about structure. Think of your 10 favorite songs. Are they any different from this? Probably not, so just stick with it for now. That's one last thing you'll have to worry about. Also, using this structure means you only need to write 3 different sections: verse, chorus, and bridge. The rest is merely repetition. So instead of having to write 3 minutes of original music, now you just have to write half of that. Next question: how long should each of these sections be? Believe it or not, there's a correct answer for this as well. Once you're comfortable writing songs, you can stray from these, but for now, here's your formula. Intro, 4 bars. Verse 1, 16 bars. Pre-chorus, 4 bars. Chorus 1, 8 bars. Verse 2, 8 bars. Pre-chorus, 4 bars. Chorus 2, 8 bars. Bridge, 8 bars. Chorus 3, 8 bars. So if you're already working in a DAW, making a template with markers for the different sections is a good way to start. I've included a session for Logic Pro X that you can download in the description for free. If you've already written some songs, I also like to recommend my book, The Addiction Formula, which shows you the formulas to build your own structures and to maximize their effectiveness through energy management. Let's talk about that in a simplified version for now. The overall message is make your choruses big and keep your verses small. The bigger the difference, the bigger the impact when the chorus hits. But what does big and small mean in this context? Well, for now, let's stick to 3 parameters, which will help you control your energy. These are the most important, but you'll find a list of over 300 more in the Addiction Formula. Before we get into it, one more thing, and this is something to put on a post-it. Put this in a place where you'll see it when you write. If you want your chorus to sound big, don't make it bigger, make what comes before it smaller. I'll say that again because this sounds obvious, but from reviewing hundreds of songs that songwriters like you have sent in, I can tell you it's not. If you want your chorus to sound big, don't make it bigger, make what comes before it smaller. It is always better to take stuff out of the verse instead of adding another layer to the chorus. Okay? Good. Now let's move on to those 3 parameters I told you about. Number 1, dynamics and arrangement. Make your choruses louder, for example by adding a new instrument, or make your verses softer by taking out an instrument. Number 2, pitch. Let your singer sing higher in the chorus and lower in the verses. Number 3, lyrics. In the verses, it's okay to have a little more text, but in the chorus, limit yourself to very few words. For now, try to use no more than 5 or 6 that perfectly summarize what your song is about. We'll talk much more about this in a future episode, but for now, this will do. Also, for a beginner, I always recommend to start writing for a rock band setup. Drums, bass, guitar/keyboards, and vocals. You don't have to record real instruments. You can also use samples or synthesizer versions of all of these. But this is a great instrumentation to start with because it limits you to 4 parts, and limitations are good. Even for a professional, it's infinitely harder to write just a handful of great parts than it is to write 50 parts that are so-so. It's easy to hide behind overwhelm. Instead, focus on the opposite. Think about it like designing the Apple logo. Very few elements, but those elements come together beautifully. Next question. When should the different instruments come in? Yes, that is an important question. Most beginners and too many professionals I know let all of the instruments play all of the time. Instead, carefully plan when to add what, and the instrument will have more impact on the listener and keeps the song engaging. King of Songwriting Max Martin has talked about this in interviews as well. You add 1 element at a time. Don't overwhelm your audience. What's the formula for this, you ask? For a standard pop song, begin with just guitar or keyboard. In the verse, when the vocals start, add a pinch of drums and bass, maybe just a 4-on-the-floor beat and whole notes on the bass. In the chorus, distort the guitar or use a bigger sound on the keyboard. Let the drums play on the crash and add a snare on 2 and 4. For the second verse, let the drums play on the hi-hat and snare, otherwise, go back to the arrangement of the first verse. Your second and third chorus will be like your first chorus, so all that remains is the bridge. Here, let the drums play on the ride and switch up the chord progression. We're going to go much deeper into all of this in future episodes, but for now, if you'd like to download 3 more arranging blueprints, you can do that right here. Thanks for tuning in. This is Freedom of Fantastic Songwriting. Keep writing and stay gefährlich.